friends, and welcome to another episode of your Bish Therapist podcast. But not just any episode, today is going to be the first bite sized Bish of season 5. And for those of you who are new to the podcast and you're wondering what a bite sized Bish is, bite sized Bish, they're episodes where I talk a little bit more about my personal life or things that I've learned or insights that I've gained, give some more personal updates, things like that. First one of the season. Hi, welcome. If you're new to the show, that's what you can expect from a bite sized Bish episode. And the first thing that I wanted to address, speaking of that, is that some of you may have noticed that on my recent episode with Mandy Slutzker, we did an hour. And there were several thousand of you who were able to listen to the episode ad free. And I'm sure you were like, this is different. Why is this? Well, it's because I got distracted and I made a mistake, but I thought it would be a good opportunity to tell you a little bit of how to get ad free. So, when I take my breaks for seasons, which by the way, when I do seasons, the reason why I do that is because, I have a chronic cancer, dystonia, a lot of other health issues. And so by the time I'm at the end of the season, it's usually I'm pretty exhausted. I'm trying to balance taking care of me, my household, my husband, and all these other things. And sometimes the balancing act is really challenging for me. So when it gets to be too much, I take a break, I rejuvenate, I rest, I get my headspace back right, and then I come back to you all, which I will always do. And so while I'm on my breaks, though, what I do is I post episodes to all the places that people support me. So there are 3 places where people can support in addition to the free podcast: Patreon, YouTube, and Spreaker Supporter Club. So wherever you're listening to this podcast, if you look in the description, there are links to all these things that I'm saying. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because for those of you who did get the ad-free episode, I was distracted by things going on in my personal life. And instead of clicking supporters, I clicked just release it on my RSS feed. And so there were several thousand people who got an ad free episode. And so it was my mistake, but I hope that you all enjoyed that. And it does give you an idea of what you can get if you become a supporter on my Patreon, my Spreaker, or my YouTube. So what I do is you don't have to deal with ads, you get full video, and then you also get bonus content and early releases. My podcast comes out on Tuesday, but for everybody else, I download it typically a day or two earlier. And so if any of that matters to you or interests you, please check those things out. Again, wherever you're listening to this podcast, click below and it'll take you wherever you want to go. And the second thing I wanted to say is thank you all for coming back every season. I really appreciate you. For those of you who are listening to the free podcast, the one thing that I wanted to ask, actually 2 things, because I don't do this a lot, but it's important. The podcast whole game has changed a little bit, and it's not about how many people listen, it's about how many people download the episode. So what I would appreciate wherever you're listening to this, I know I have some listeners on Spotify, but the majority are on Apple Podcast. If you go to look at your Bish Therapist podcast, if you could please click to follow the show and click automatic downloads. Those are the things that really help my numbers, because I understand, life is challenging, bills are wild. And so not everybody has the ability to, support, whether it's 5, 10, or $15 a month. I totally understand that. And so this is something you could do for free that would really help me out. I'd appreciate that if you haven't done it already. And the second thing is I would love if people listening to this who genuinely enjoy the show could please leave a 5-star review. And so this is a segue into last season. Towards the end of the season, what happens is I kind of start to get burnt out, which for me just happens with my body really easily. I'm managing a chronic cancer, dystonia, POTS, a lot of other health issues. And so by the end of the season, I kind of get inundated with a lot of people shouting at me, not so nice things and all of that. And so sometimes people, they'll listen to this and they'll misunderstand me or they'll project their stuff onto me and then they'll post something really nasty in a review. I just want to share with you all, when you do the good reviews, it really helps to kind of balance that out. Because here's the thing, I've always said this, I understand that I am not for everybody. I understand not everybody's going to like me. I have no issues with that. But what I do have an issue with is when people say really nasty things that aren't accurate, calling me a narcissist or all of these other things because they're upset because of something that I've said. And so I want to be clear about a couple of things. This is my podcast, and I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. And if people don't like it, they can very easily not listen and tune out. I don't know about you, but for me, I've never given a crappy review to a podcast that I just didn't like. You know what I did? I just stopped listening. It's like, imagine me going into the Tractor Supply store to, like, get makeup, and then I go into the store and I'm like, "Well, this store sucks because it's not exactly what I wanted. They don't have my makeup, they don't have this, they don't have that." And it's like, "Well, yeah, I went into a Tractor Supply store looking for things that they don't sell." So, if people don't like what I'm selling, then I suggest to tune out. And I don't want anyone to be here who doesn't want to be here. But it's just a note to remind people that, I'm a human person and I am very sensitive and I do have a thick skin, but like, I'm a person. So please remember that. And the other piece is that I am going to talk about what I want on my podcast. And there is literally nobody that's going to stop me. I don't care how many nasty reviews that I get. Never going to stop talking about my personal experience, strength, and hope, because ultimately I get these messages from people that are like, I never understood this until you talked about it, or you talking about this really validated me. And that's why I do it, to really make something out of this mess that is my life and share my experience, strength, and hope and all of that stuff. So for the people who appreciate it, thank you. You are my people. I appreciate you. And if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and leave a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate that. So, fortunately, I'm back on my business in terms of, my mental health is in a really good place. My physical health has been so so, but, I'm managing that really well. And I'm really proud of that. There are so many people, so many of you listening that are supportive and wonderful. And then it's just like the ignorant voices sometimes are the loudest, or especially when it's so personally attacking, it's very hard for me to just brush off, especially when I'm kind of in those states. So I'm happy to report that your Bish is back. I don't give a fuck about what any negative person has to say. They're never going to stop me. They're never going to make me change what it is that I'm doing. It's just going to make me talk to you guys about it more and ask for a little bit of help. I'm not great at asking for help historically, and that's something that I'm working on. And so when I ask for people to follow the show and do automatic downloads and things like that, this is just me asking for your help. So for those of you who are able to provide it, thank you so much. I see you and I appreciate you very much. So on to some other fun things. I had a get together with some friends yesterday. So there's a group of us, a group of 5 of us, that my first job out of grad school, which was um 19 years ago, something like that. It was a literal lifetime ago. We were all babies when we worked there. We were in our 20s. We're now in our 40s and 50s, and we get together and we have a kiki. And unfortunately, they don't understand what I'm doing at all either. So, no, but I love that. And I say it and I laugh about it because I love it, because I have so many people in this realm who are really into what I'm doing. And so I really think, for my ego, it's really great to be around people who are like, I don't know what you're doing. I support it, but I have no idea whatsoever. And so we get together and we just talk about, the not so good old days, the being a therapist in, a very exploitative setting, and, having some coworkers who were really challenging and things like that. we just tell stories and we eat and we chat, and it's just really fun. But yesterday, one of my friends, Allison, I asked for her permission and she told me I could share this. So my friend Allison lives in a beautiful area in Pennsylvania. I'm not going to say specifically where for her privacy, but she lives in a very in an area where there's a lot of wealth, and Yolanda Hadid is her neighbor. And how do I know that? Because she told me the story about how she was driving in the neighborhood. By the way, for those of you, you can Google this with Yolanda Hadid. They bought a farm in Pennsylvania, a, very upscale kind of ritzy farm. And it just happens to be close to where my friend lives. And so she was driving the one day, and I guess Yolanda was on the side of the road. Her car had broken down or something happened. And my friend Allison stopped. And by the way, she doesn't watch Bravo. So she had no idea who this was. She had no idea. She said she was beautiful. She was very lovely. My friend Allison asked her if she needed a ride, and she said, no, the gardener's going to come get me. And then she said, oh, okay, no problem. And then she drove off, and she was telling her husband about it. And he was like, you mean the Hadids? And he showed her a picture of Yolanda. And she was like, yeah, that's her. I was like, you talked to Yolanda Hadid on the side of the road. And it was just such a funny moment, because it's like all roads truly lead back to Bravo. So these are people who are therapists. They have no care or concern about reality TV. They have no idea who Yolanda Hadid is. Just casually run into her on the side of the road and just like have no idea. So, she told me I could tell that story, and I was like, oh, my listeners are going to love that. Imagine just like coming upon Yolanda Hadid on the side of the road. That is wild. And I was like, oh my God, I wish I would have been there. That would have been wild. Small world, small world. All roads lead to Bravo. But, it was nice for us to get together and, friend time, and just like social connectedness is so important for me. It re-energizes me, even though today I actually don't feel well because I had too much fun yesterday. But living in this body, that's just the cost of having fun. I'm not going to not have fun, but I'm just going to manage the aftermath that comes the next day. So a couple other updates is that I met with my oncologist, and I was having a little blip with my CLL, but things actually are fine there. Blood work is actually better than anticipated. And I was just having some weird issues that have seemed to resolve themselves for now. But that's living with a chronic cancer. It's just like, stuff is always going to pop up. I just try to compartmentalize, not worry about it, not think about it all the time. And then when stuff pops up, I just manage it. Because one of my favorite quotes is, what's coming will come, and I'll meet it when it does. Because the thing people always ask, like, well, living with a chronic cancer, how do you not think about that like all the time? It's just like for me, I went that route and it drove me almost insane. It's not something that is helpful for me to constantly think about. And so I've kind of learned that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And for me to kind of compartmentalize and have faith in myself that when things come up, I'll address them then properly. And that for me has been a game changer. So that's why I want to share it with you all. What's coming will come, and I'll meet it when it does. I think the best thing we can do for our resilience is have faith and a belief and understanding in the fact that we can and will address what's coming. So many people, they think like, they'll say to me, oh, I don't know how you do this with all these health issues. Like, I could never do that. And it's like, well, sure you could, because I'm sure I thought that, but here I am. It's not a matter of can we, it's a matter of like, it's amazing what you do when you have to. There are all sorts of people listening to this that are survivors and thrivers, and I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not for the faint of heart, but at the same time, it can be very empowering if you allow yourself to say, okay, I can do this. Like, I really can do this. So, I think that whole line of thinking of like, I could never XYZ. Well, if it hasn't happened yet, don't count yourself out, because if it did happen, I bet you would deal with it. That's all I'm saying. So I was able to finally get a couple months ago a diagnosis of dystonia, which has been happening probably for decades. But I finally got Botox in my neck and my jaw. And I have to say, I hated the feeling initially because my muscles in my neck are dystonic and overactive. And so they're constantly like spasming and all of these things. And they've been doing that for probably the better part of a decade. So when I got Botox, all the other muscles around them must have been so weak because it literally felt like my head was going to flop off my body. Like I would look down to like unload the dishwasher and it felt like my head was just going to roll off. It's the weirdest sensation. So while it does help, it's actually a little bit more stressful than I thought. And my body tends to get really anxious when I have new bodily sensations because I feel a lot of things in this body, honey, and it's really wild sometimes. And so I had this other, this new sensation because of Botox. And then I started to get all this wild anxiety about it and, whatever. So I'm going to continue to give it, a chance and continue to do it. But it was just really weird. And hopefully it ends up being a game changer for me, but at this point, not so much. And then the last update that I wanted to give you is that I've been a little bit more MIA because I am the caretaker for my grandparents who are 98 and 96. And unfortunately, I have no help with that, which I'll just leave it at that. By the way, speaking of this, when I do my Patreon episodes, they are a bit more personal. So I do talk a little bit more about the specifics about like dynamics and things like that, which is something that I'm not always super comfortable talking about on the free podcast. But anyway, so if you're interested in hearing more of that sort of stuff, head over to Patreon. So anyway, unfortunately, we've had to put my grandmother in hospice, which, of course, she's 95. We know she's at the end of her life, but it's just really sad and very stressful. My grandfather is still alive. He has dementia, but, he and my grandmother have been married for 75 years. Think about that for a second. There are some people who don't make it to 75 years on this earth, and they have been married for 75 years. So, it's a lot for both of them emotionally, and it's a lot for me. So, we have, fortunately, the hospice nurses that have come in and helped me out immensely. Their support that I didn't even expect to have. I've been talking with them every day and managing this. So, this is just going to be something that I'm managing until the end of her life. And then probably again with my grandfather until the end of his. I'm just so grateful that they're still here. I'm so grateful that I've had 44 years with them. What a blessing. But it is just a very stressful process. The whole hospice piece, and, my grandmother knows what's going on and she's very alert. And so I have social workers coming in there, spiritual advisors. I talk to her. I'm just want to make sure that they have everything that they need to be as happy, comfortable, and fulfilled as they can towards the end of their life. And so sometimes it's like a balancing act. I'm trying to do the podcast. I'm trying to take care of my health. I'm trying to, go grocery shopping and do things around the house. And so it's just been a lot, but quite frankly, that is what's been going on. Today, there's an episode released of Amy Phillips and I talking about the Valley. And the one thing I'll say is that, Amy is really wonderful and we have so much fun together. There's less of a comfort with talking about some of the darker stuff with Bravo, which I totally understand and I respect. So, one of the things that I just wanted to say about the Valley, Kim Zolciak was on Watch What Happens Live, and I get the feeling that they're trying to shove wig back down our throats. It was revealed on Next Gen New York City that she stole Ariana and Brielle's money, and then she went on Watch What Happens Live. And Andy, of course, here's my beef. Andy confronted her, but he's happy to confront women, in my experience. He is less happy to confront men. So, for example, Jax on the Valley, when it was revealed that Jax literally physically abused Brittany, broke her phone, broke her laptop, smashed her cup, threw the table into her, pushed her into the rose bushes. It was crickets. And I thought to myself, what's happening now? Andy has nothing to say about that. Nobody has anything to say about that. And then the longer that I thought about it, the more irate it made me that it's like, so are you telling me Alex Baskin and Bravo Production knew that this video existed because the cast knew about it? And their solution was to have Jax go to rehab and then not fire him, but allow him to walk away. Can I be real? What the actual fuck? What the actual fuck? I don't like it. I don't condone it. I don't support it. I don't understand why there's differences here. So essentially, what Andy did was he did this like truth bomb thing, which, with all the stuff that's going on in the world, the whole bomb thing just didn't, I don't know, it didn't sit right with me either, but maybe I'm being sensitive. I have no idea. And he confronted Kim about stealing Ariana's money, but by the way, she was in the audience. She looked like she wished she could crawl in a hole and just disappear. And Kim, of course, was like, "Oh, the rug was pulled out from under me and Croy left me with nothing." And it's like, wig, I mean, it's delusion at this point. It has to be delusion because she made a choice to take her child's money without consent or their knowledge, which is for sure financial abuse. Andy asked Kim about paying them back, and Kim said that she paid Ariana some money back, but I swear they panned to Ariana in the audience, and you could tell that Kim was lying by her face. I was like, this woman has not paid her any money back, number one. And number two, she doesn't plan to, because at this point, if she has stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars, how is she going to pay that back? Listen, maybe her coming back to Bravo could help her earn some money to pay her children back. But to be frank, what Kim is doing with the money, it seems, is allegedly gambling, shopping. She'll ask Ariana for money for something and then she'll post, drinking a $200 bottle of wine. So that is a Kim problem. Kim is not a victim. She's a participant, and she has victimized her children in ways that it's just really egregious to me. And I just don't like any of it. And so I just want Bravo to stop recycling trash, if I'm being honest. Please stop doing that. And I know there are people who love Kim and they don't care about what I'm saying. And fine, fair enough. But I really do care about that. Where I put my time and my money and my energy is important to me, and I'm not going to give it to Wig. I'm just not. If she comes back to Atlanta, for sure, I will be done. I will not be watching if she is coming back. I just cannot support that. And so, although Jax is not coming back, it's like he has gotten way more grace than he's deserved when Bravo Lebs have been fired for less, much, much, much less. So it just really agitates me. And I know you know what I'm talking about because, I posted on, Instagram and social media about this, and a lot of you, are of the same kind of wavelengths. You're really frustrated about it. I mean, Bravo I just feel like this thing we all love has become really ugly and really dark, and I don't understand and I don't like it. I don't like it. So I am going to be doing another bite-sized bish on my own to talk about the Valley reunion part 2, because there's some things there that I was talking about on my social media where I feel like Jax was really telling on himself. He starts off coming in. They say, "How are you feeling, Jax?" And he says, "I'm ready to go to war." And then you cut to him during the reunion and he says, "I'm not trying to go to war." And then he'll say, to Brittany, she's like, "I'm shaking." He said, "You should." And then he's like trying to be all like, try to fake this humility. And so I can see exactly through Jax. I can see exactly through him. He is a concerning person. He knows exactly what he's doing. His behaviors are meant to be manipulative and problematic, and he does that on purpose. I believe that 1,000%. He was telling Janet that he gained 30 pounds, and then Brittany accused him of doing steroids. And I just think to myself, if he gained 30 pounds of fat, he would look a lot different, but he doesn't look that different. He does look a little bit more bulky. And so when people allegedly use steroids, you get a lot of muscle bulk really, really quickly. But also, steroids are really significantly bad for mental health. I'm talking about illegal stuff. The TRT, testosterone replacement for men, sometimes that can be a game changer, just like hormone replacement can be for women. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about hormone replacement that's done properly by a doctor. I'm talking about the stuff that like you buy online, and it's full of things that are going to literally make you rage. So it wouldn't surprise me. I think Brittany's proven that at this point she knows this man pretty well and she's called him out pretty well. And so doing drug tests, the one question that people had asked me is would steroids come up on a traditional drug test? And the answer is no. You have to test specifically for those. And so I wonder if she is now, because I think that is something that is to be concerned with. Sometimes people, quote unquote, they get sober and it turns out they're not great people. I would say it's a small percentage out of every 100 people that comes to treatment, and they're good people with a terrible disease and they get sober and they move to becoming who they're meant to be. But they're for every 100 person, and there's like one that it's just they get sober and it's like you got just some antisocial tendencies here, you got some narcissistic traits and tendencies that are really, really significant, and probably the drug use is more a symptom of some of those personality issues. So I'm gonna leave that there. So for today, this is going to be it for me. A little bit of a longer bite-sized bish because I haven't done one in a while. But again, if you could all please, follow the podcast, click automatic downloads, leave a review, check out my Patreon, my YouTube, all of that. I would just really, really, really appreciate it. And if you enjoy what I'm doing on Instagram, please follow me, because the other thing is I do content there for free. And my professional dashboard says that I'll have like 1 million views per month. And I have under like 20,000 followers, because people really like to take information and just kind of like not support. That happens a lot online for content creators. So if you don't follow me already, that's something else you could do if you have Instagram. So thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you for being a community for me. Thank you for being loving and supportive, and just being wonderful, to not only to me, but to yourselves also. And that's the one thing I will say on Patreon. It's nice because there's a community, there's group chats, there's like private DMs with me. We do group Zooms, and for anyone who wants to participate. And so it's just really fun. We have a good kiki over there, and come over and see what it's all about. www.patreon.com/your Bish therapist. So for today, I'm going to say thank you, sending love to you and yours, and ta-ta for now. Disclaimer: posts are not intended to diagnose, treat, or provide medical advice. Your Bish therapist is for entertainment and informational purposes only. The podcast, my opinions, and posts are my own and not associated with past or present employers, any organizations, Bravo TV, Greyheart Productions, or any other television network. The information in YBT podcast and on its social media is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat. Please do not act or refrain from acting based on anything you read, see, or hear on YBT podcast or associated social media. Communicating with YBT via email and or social media does not form a therapeutic alliance. Melissa, operator of YBT, is unable to provide any therapeutic advice, treatment, or feedback.